They have no grave but the full sea. No flowers laid their head. A rusting hole to their tombstone. A fast on the ocean bed. Let's move for dead. Thank you. Please be seated. Even though the naval ode was never written for that, I think it is the most appropriate ode for this particular service. And you people that were survivors of the Voyager, more so. Now, my name is Alan Moffat, and I was contacted by your great hard-working secretary, Brenda, and would I carry out the duty of MC again, as I had done for the 50th anniversary. I felt very honoured. So to Brenda Hannay, and also to President Alex Hegarty and John, I would like to say thank you. And to all you survivors, I would like to say thank you. It's a great privilege to do this. I never ever served on Voyager, but saying that, I lost many great friends. They were all communicators. I know I like sticking up for my own friends, but one man in particular, we both joined up in 1955, and it was his second draft to Voyager. Sadly, it was to be his final draft of life. Anyway, before we have the food, and I hope it's very nice, and what I can see on the table so far is good, I will say grace. For food in the world, where many walk in hunger. For faith in the world, where many walk in fear. For friends in the world, where many walk alone. For this, we give you our thanks to the Lord. Amen. Thank you very much. I think we'll pipe hands to dinner, maybe.
You got a basin pipe?
That's right. Can you borrow one? Please put on your best smiles. Alex is going around with his camera. He could make TV here.
Well, look,
she's somewhere, but she's happy wherever she is. She's currently. I think she's working. No, I know she's just in the last year of school. She's just gone in year 12 this year. But you know how she's already started year 12. Started last term. She's off and running.
We had to know that for a week, but
Test 1 2, test 1 2.
Want some money?
No. In Toowoomba, Queensland, and attended the Toowoomba Grammar School before joining the Navy in 1987. He graduated from the Australian Defence Academy and the Royal Melbourne Institute of Technology with a Bachelor of Aerospace Engineering and completed his Aeronautical Certificate of Competency prior to conducting pilot training and earned his wings. And he's wearing them tonight. He conducted operational deployments flying the Sierra 70 Bravo-2 Seahawk helicopter. So let's ask him what that's like, I don't know. Selected for experimental test pilot training at the United States Test Pilot School in 1998, prior to being posted to the Navy Maintenance and Flight Trials Unit. He conducted flight testing on multiple Australian and international flight test projects and research programs. He was officer in charge of Aircraft Maintenance Flight Trials Unit in 2003 before being promoted to commander, and then became project manager of the Silver Sea Sprite Acquisition Program. He commanded 816 Squadron Seahawk helicopters in 2008-2009. Following a short tour as Commander of Operations and Airworthiness and Standards at Headquarters Fleet Air Arm, he was promoted to Captain and completed posting as Chief of Staff, Fleet Air Arm, and Chief of Staff to Chief of Navy. He graduated as a Fellow of the Centre for Defence and Strategic Studies in 2014, prior to assuming duties as the Director of the Maritime Safety Bureau in January 2015. He maintains a keen interest in civil aviation, Director of Safe Skies in Australia, which delivers an international aviation safety conference in Australia on a biannual basis. He enjoys supporting not-for-profit emergency, medical and search and rescue organisations, and has flown aircraft for years on weekends and during leave periods, thus maintaining his flying recency in aviation. Commander Smallborn relinquished command as Director Maritime Safety Bureau in December 2015 and assumed duty as Commanding Fleet Air Arm on the 20th of January 2016. I would now call on Commodore Smallgood to come and say a few words.
I noticed that he demoted me then, but I think a lot of you might have met Admiral Briggs last night, and he would have been very pleased to hear me demoted. Where I said that the Chief of Staff to the Chief of Navy, I was Admiral Briggs' Chief of Staff for 18 months. And, well, you know, sometimes you just have to remind yourself what it was like to be a midshipman. And when I was working for Admiral Briggs, he reminded me pretty regularly you're just the body you're in. Alex, thank you for a really lovely intro, and I know you took the time to write all of that down yourself, and so quite a bit of effort in doing that, so it's really kind of you. It probably demonstrates why he's involved in so many of these sort of things, because he's a professional in every way. And I know a little about his career as a communicator, some of his time in Whitehall and Britannia, or nearly in Britannia. So he's a pretty high-end operator, and you continue to be so. Alex, thank you very much. Brenda, thank you for the invitation, and John for allowing me to come here. And Alex, of course, I've only just met you tonight, and I've just heard just a little bit of your history, and what an extraordinary story it is. And with all of that, still time to be the president of this association now. That's something truly special. Ladies and gentlemen, humble is probably the best word I can use right now to describe to you, I guess, how I actually feel. Clearly there's a lot of emotions in this room. 16 survivors and a great deal, family, friends, loved ones. And there's many people in the much wider network who feel these sort of things. Yeah, okay, no worries. Don't worry. I know he's got 2 new hips we don't worry about. And so I also, however, as a member of the Navy today, I look back at the legacy that Voyager left, and that national event that touched the hearts of so many, and it certainly got into the psyche of the nation. And tonight, I want to talk a little bit to you about that term, lest we forget, and we've heard it twice tonight already. It's a fairly special 3 words that we use on Anzac Day every year, and I sometimes wonder whether we forget the fact that "lest we forget" is an action phrase. It is saying we must not forget those things that have happened in the past. And I'll return to that phrase throughout the address to you this evening as I talk a little bit about that fateful incident 53 years ago on the 10th of February 1964. Lest we forget those 81 sailors from the RAM and the RM whose lives were lost. Lest we forget the one civilian dockyard member who was also on the ship. It happened only 20 nautical miles, more or less, away from where we are, 25 if we include the way out the point perpendicular there, and in 600 fathoms of water, those 82 souls still lie. Lest we forget you. Lest we forget you and your shipmates, the 242 survivors of Voyager. Lest we forget the families and the friends and the loved ones and the children and all of those who were affected by this event. But lest we forget the lessons that we've learned, because there is no better way, I believe, that we can honour you and we can honour those who are lost for people who are here today than to make sure that we are better tomorrow for the lessons of yesterday. And I see that as my duty. I see that as one of my jobs as a senior leader of the Navy today, is to make sure we don't forget these lessons. The Navy of 1964 and the Navy of 2017 are different. The people who serve in the service, I would offer to you, are the same at heart. We still love our nation. We still will defend our nation. And if called upon, we will defend it rigorously and we'll defend it with courage, just as you did and would have for those who did not end up in conflict. But in the 1960s, the Navy was made up very much of war veterans. It was a fighting service. It was considered, if you took onto the service of arms, it was an inherently dangerous evolution. In 1939 to 1945, pretty well everyone who joined in that period, they wrote a blank cheque on their lives. They just hoped they'd never cash it. And conflict didn't stop. It kept on going as we led up through those periods of the 50s and the 60s. The Korean War. We had the Suez Canal. Whilst not directly involved, the pressure on our allies and the pressure on this country, knowing that more war was potentially imminent. Of course, the Vietnam War. Post-1945, I would offer to you the training accidents, they were tacitly accepted as the price of vigilance, as the price of being a fighting service, and the price of being a professional service that was ready at all times. I look at only a couple of miles from right here. Two Fireflies on the 27th of November last year crashed into each other 2 miles from where we sit right now. Of those 2 aircraft, one still lies over on the other side of the bay in 13 metres of water. And for those of you who still wish to dive, you can go and have a look at it. It's in perfect condition. You push the sand off the wings, it's great. And now there sits a granite memorial under the water, where we laid that granite memorial last year on the 60th anniversary and held a small service underwater with Clearance Diving Team 1. We also held a service in a boat over the top of the other Firefly that was lost. We held a service to commemorate and remember Arthur Arundel and Noel Fogarty, the 2 gentlemen who were lost in that aircraft. And sitting on the other end with modern technology of a camera on FaceTime was the pilot of the aircraft that sits out on the other side of the bay, Mr. David Eagles. I talked at that particular service about what sort of service did a young man in those days primarily join. What was expected of him? They were expected to be ready. They were expected to go to war if called upon, and most of the people in the service had done so. That was the context and the environment in which Voyager and Melbourne conducted flying manoeuvres that evening. So safety attitudes were real. Safety attitudes at the time, however, need to be measured in the context of the times. And in giving you that environment, that picture, I know many of you who lived there at the time will resonate with the sort of thoughts that I've just mentioned. But the safety programs at the time were not exactly as legally binding as they are today. Now, I don't mean to look at it through the lens of regulation. I mean to say that how we approach safety and safety systems then and now have vastly changed. It is about us learning the lessons. It's about us never forgetting. Safety checks and balances were different. Occupational health and safety as a term was not exactly really well known. Building sites were dangerous, mines were dangerous, the wharfs were dangerous, and injuries were not at all uncommon. And there was that tacit acceptance of injury and tacit acceptance of training injuries. I also reflect on the HMAS Sydney whaler incident in 1963. 4 midshipmen lost in a whaler and 1 acting sub-lieutenant. The junior officers' concerns on that day were raised, and but for want of an understanding of the risk and the hearing the concerns of those people about to do the evolutions, perhaps they would not have been lost. However, there was one of those young midshipmen in another whaler who got back that day, exhausted, in terrible weather and in large sea states. His name was Midshipman Kerry Marion, and he later lost his life, saving his shipmates on board Voyager. So today's Navy, what does it really look like? And what is the legacy of Voyager? There are a couple of specific things that happened directly as a result of the incident for which so many of you were directly involved. Swimming test. I mean, a swimming test on entry, you think of through the lens of the Navy, why would you not have a swimming test? Well, of course, at the time, not everybody had a pool in the local country town. It wasn't normal necessarily for everybody to know how to swim, so it wasn't in our psyche to do so. Today, no one gets to join the Navy if they don't know how to swim. Basic fitness tests. A level of weight or body mass index that's appropriate for the role, and fitness that's appropriate for the role. And even today, we're continuing to rework these expectations of our sailors, and we'll start looking at fitness tests now being more associated with saving your mate on the ship, rather than how fast can I run up and down a particular length of the basketball court. So we're continually working these evolutions and these expectations today. So Voyager had some of those direct effects, and included in that, of course, was the SOPs for the manoeuvring of ships in close station. There was a great amount of change that came into our books after that as well. But I think there's one major change, which it may be unfair to say that Voyager in and of itself was a single causal factor. But it was the bravery of people who spoke and people who listened in the months and years that followed, that we as a nation started to better understand the deleterious effects of PTSD, of post-traumatic stress syndrome. In World War II, you would have a soldier, a sailor, or an airman who might find themselves labelled with lacking moral fibre. Has anyone here ever heard that particular term? I hear it today, and I have men and women under my command who are suffering from PTSD, and we manage that the best we can. And I hear those words, and I try and put it into the context of the day, and even now I struggle to put it into the context of war. That men and women, men in this case at that particular time in our history, mostly men, who got to that point by showing extraordinary courage on their ships, on the battlefield or in the air, and yet we labelled them as lacking moral fibre. LMF, we even acronymed it next to the name. Hard to believe when measured against today, and as I say, as I try and put myself in the context of those days, I send, and today have a flight operating over in the Middle East area of operations, and we have done now for 27 continuous years from out here at HMAS Albatross. And of course you get these sort of events come out of that much activity up there, but never could I imagine labelling them anything but effective, and therefore deserving of our total and utter support. The stress of tragedy was reminded, if I needed reminding of it, when I recently went to Lieutenant Commander Clive Mayo's funeral over in Perth. I don't know that many of you would know Clive Mayo. Clive Mayo was in the Royal Australian Navy Flight Vietnam, and in 1 year he flew 1,300 hours in Iroquois helicopters. He was shot down 6 times. He lost an engine and crash landed a 7th aircraft, and that aircraft was written off, and he lost one of his crew members in one of the engagements I mentioned. He suffered PTSD for most of his life, but for the first 20 years no one really knew what was wrong. He was just quiet. His family knew what was wrong, and these are the other people that suffer so desperately from this affliction. But today I'm really proud to say, while we have a journey to go on to understand these sorts of mental health effects, I think we're on the right vector. I think we're on the right journey. I wouldn't stand in front of you today and say we've learned all the lessons. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope we're learning enough of the lessons. And today, if you break a leg, you go to the doctor and you'll be treated for a broken leg. Today, if someone comes into my office and says they feel they're suffering from a mental health affliction, they will go to the doctor and be treated for a mental health affliction. They won't be labelled LMF, and they will not be put in the corner as if they were somebody different. And we are slowly but surely growing the workforce who appreciates that. This, I think, from Voyager, amongst other major incidents in our national history, has been one of the greatest changes to show that today's generation is trying to learn from what you went through. Airworthiness and seaworthiness. I'd like to say now that our people are safety and airworthiness or seaworthiness practitioners by foundation. They are warriors, warfare officers and sailors by profession. That is to say that safety and our total dedication to that culture is important to be resilient warfighters. It's no good if we're not there tomorrow. I'd like to think that we've learned something once again there, and we're continuing to execute it in a way that you would be proud of us. You would be proud of us because you've seen the worst of what can happen when things go wrong. Today we're embracing simulation in a way like we've never embraced it before. Here in the Fleet Air Arm we've embraced simulation for many, many years. Now we're introducing a model called Ship Zero. The first ship that arrives in the Navy when we buy a new type is a simulator. It's a high-end simulator where our sailors, our officers, are going to learn how to handle the worst of emergencies in a safe environment before they need to do it on the water in the event that it occurs. We're preparing the same sort of people who joined the service in the 60s. We're just making them as best as they can be made with the technology that we currently have. Ladies and gents, a few points I'd just like to note for conclusion. The 10th of February 1964 was unquestionably one of the darkest days in the RAN's history and our nation's. But there was courage displayed that night. There was courage by many of the people in this room displayed that night, and there was great courage by the family. There was courage shown in the later inquiries that absorbed the nation for years to come. There was courage in the children and the friends who supported each other in support of the survivors. We are not measured by our actions when things are going right, but we will always be measured by our actions when things are going wrong. I would offer to this group that you measure up. You showed Australia what it means to be brave and courageous and to bounce back, suffering in ways that only you would know and I would never understand. But suffice to say, I enormously respect you for what you have done. To fight and win at sea requires a resilient Navy that will be there tomorrow. So safety is paramount in that equation. I think, and excuse me if I speak for you, but I'm sure I'll be corrected if I get it wrong. I would offer there is two things that everyone in this room would hope for. One, that Voyager never happened in the first place. And two, that we don't ever let it happen again. Recollection of the Voyager can never be anything but painful. It should not have happened, but it did. We who serve today, our duty is to learn from you and to learn from that event. I hope you leave here tonight knowing that at least we're trying, if not have faith in us that we have learned. No sailor should ever join this service and say they're signing a blank cheque on their lives. We will not allow it. Ladies and gentlemen, we do not forget and we do seek to learn. And lest we forget Voyager. Thank you.
Why Chris was invited here. What a beautiful speech. Sir, well done.